And I have my phone on me, so just text me if you need me to
Yeah, I have my phone here
mute
too.
someone or.
Did you get the email, Meg?
Yeah, I'm sharing it my screen now. Oops.
And YouTube is live.
I specifically brought the agenda home in on paper, so I had it. Oh, here it is. So,
Okay, I'm gonna pause it for a minute and step away. I'll be back.
okay.
Or I'm sorry, not pause it.
Yeah, mute. Yeah,
Put on
you're good.
mute. Can you
All
still
right.
see my screen though?
Yep, screen's good.
Great.
All right, I'm gonna start admitting people.
Yep.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, we stopped everyone from unmuting themselves. I just activated it for the moment. If anyone cares to unmute and say hi.
I didn't even know that was a feature. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we just found it yesterday when we were looking at different ways to make sure people couldn't do things. So
Well,
I might enable it again at some point, but for now we'll keep it.
It's
well,
the only way to keep this meeting to 2 hours to be able to prevent Mark from unmuting himself.
yeah, except Rich, you told me that you are planning to create a bombing uh, incident in the meeting today, so you got to keep an eye on Rich.
Colleen, can you make Garrett a co-host?
So Matt, for the my part of the agenda where I'm talking about the work program, how are you going to run that?
Uh, which one are you doing, Mark? Sorry. Oh, the
The work program.
2025. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Do you have something to share?
Yeah, I sent you the
Oh,
PowerPoint
do you
that
want to do it or do you want me to do it?
mean, I mean, if it's easier for you guys to open it up and then I'll just talk about it and then I can say go to the next slide or something like that. It's up to you.
Well, we can let you share, Mark. You want to
Okay.
make Mark a co-host too, Colleen?
Good afternoon. I can't, my camera won't turn on because it says it's not enabled.
Oh, that's always fun.
Someone's preventing me.
Good afternoon, Jeff.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, same with mine, Matt. So
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, you should be
not
able
the
to do
most
it now.
handsome of people, but I didn't think I was that bad.
You should be able to turn your camera on now.
All
There
right,
we go. Hey, Garrett.
let's see. Oh, yes.
Sorry, we're trying to restrict all sorts of access
That
to start
that's
with,
okay. That's okay.
but I think we're
Yeah.
keeping a handle on it. There's Subham.
Hi, Matt. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Matt, I'm back and I can start keeping an eye on letting people in too.
Hey, Megan? Megan,
Yes,
who's your co-chair of your resiliency group?
Minesh Shah?
Okay, Manesh Shah. Okay, that's what I thought. I couldn't remember. There are similar people in the entire group, so I just wanted to double check to make sure I had the right one.
Okay, I'm probably going to be giving the update, but
Well, when
Minesh and I spoke a little earlier, but please,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that he can add if needed.
Okay. No, when I'm talking about the work program, I was going to just mention that you guys are the co-chairs.
Still got a few folks trickling in, so we'll just give it another minute. I do want to get started close to on time so that we stay on schedule. There's David.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, David, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good, thank you.
Matt, I don't see Rick on the call yet, but we have an executive board meeting.
Yeah, he said,
afternoon.
I saw the email this morning, so
Yeah.
that's okay.
So,
If it's you, that's fine.
Yeah,
So
they
to
just-
go really
So, quick question.
Yes,
Because my background are the letters in reverse.
they are correct. Yep, they look backwards on your screen, but they're correct for us.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're correct. Yeah.
I'm still figuring that out.
No
Nice job,
sweat.
David. You pulled it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's weird when you look at it on your own screen because it's backwards, but
It's a little weird.
yeah, we did that for one meeting and we had it correct on our screen, which meant that everyone else saw it backwards, which we didn't realize.
I've done that myself. I just
But
figured
no, you are. It looks good.
I would double check.
And Rick just joined, Mark.
All right, thanks.
Hello.
Hey, Rick.
Sorry about that. I had a little confusion between a Teams meeting and a Zoom link.
Oh yeah, sorry, we forgot to take off the Teams.
Sorry.
I hate how it adds that automatically.
I opened it real quick. Long enough to glance.
We already get a fine?
No, but it's Department of.
All right, I'm going to give one more minute. A couple people still floating in, and then we will kick ourselves off. And Colleen, we're already streaming to YouTube, correct?
So we can download this material, like this video recording.
Yeah, so it's going to be streamed to YouTube. It'll be saved directly into YouTube as well on our YouTube page.
Oh, all right, thank you.
Oh, and I just wanted to let you all know that there's a possibility that once, maybe twice, I'll have to briefly hop off for somebody deal with somebody who's going to be doing some work here at my house.
No problem, David. All right, it's 1:03 and I want to make sure we stay on track. So why don't we go ahead and I will get us started with the spring 2025 MAP Forum meeting. I appreciate everyone taking the time to join us this afternoon on what is one of the warmer days of the year. So hopefully we get in here, get our work done, and get out so everyone can enjoy the nice weather. My name is Matt Fulda. I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Metropolitan Council of Governments, and myself, along with Rick Dunn, are the co-secretaries and administrators for the Greater Bridgeport and Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization. I am going to quickly go around to each of the different regions and just have the main representative for that region introduce themselves. You should have the ability to unmute and start your camera. We did restrict that to begin with, but I think I have them all active now. So I'm going to start with the Connecticut folks and then work our way to New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So I will start with Rick Dunn. Why don't you go ahead, Rick?
Sure. Thanks, Matt. Rick Dunn, Executive Director, Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments and Co-Secretary of the Greater Bridgewater Valley MPO. I'm joined by the two people who actually work very hard at this, Mark Nielsen, my Deputy Director, and Rich Donovan, who's our Transportation Planning Director, is also on the call. We have a number of other staff with us on the call. Thanks,
Thank
Matt.
you, Rick. I will go to Westcog. Kristen, is that going to be you?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Kristen Hedges-Dilianos. I'm the Transportation Director at Westcog. I'm also joined by a number of other staff, including Todd Fontanella, Kristen Floberg, Mike Wilson, and Ryan Dolan.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. Laura, I'll go to you next, South Central Region.
Good afternoon, Laura Francis, Executive Director of the South Central Regional Council of Governments. And I don't think my colleagues have signed on yet. I wonder if they're on YouTube.
Kelly is on. Kelly Kingston's on.
Oh, Kelly Kingston is our transportation planner. Our Director of Transportation Planning, Jim Rode, is going to be signing on. And hopefully we're going to be joined by the new Executive Director of Rex Development. His name is Michael Harris. And he is very interested in the work that we're doing in this and how we might collaborate. He takes over from Ginny Kozlowski, and they're our economic development partners.
Thank you, Laura. Matt Hart, I'll go to you, Capital Region.
Thank you, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see you. Matt Hart, Executive Director here at the Capital Region Council of Governments. And I believe Rob Aloise, our Director of Transportation Planning, will be joining us as well. Looking forward to a productive meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Sam Gold, RiverCog, I just saw you join. Do you want to just say hi?
Yes, it's Sam Gold, Executive Director of the Lower Connecticut River Valley Council of Governments. Sorry that I'm late.
No problem, Sam. Thank you. And Kate Rattan, Southeast. I don't see Amanda.
Good morning. Kate Rattan, Director of Transportation for Southeast COG. And we also have Amanda Kennedy, our Executive Director, on today. Thanks.
Thank you, Kate. Now I will move ourselves over to New York. NIMTEC. Mark, I saw you were on.
Yep. Adam Levine is on too,
Right.
Executive Director at NIMTEC. We've also got Mark Maglienti and Munesh Patel, the Assistant Directors here at NIMTEC.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for joining us. I will move across the river to NGTPA.
Hey,
NJTPA, sorry.
good afternoon, everybody. Dave Barron, Executive Director of NJTPA. I'm joined by our Senior Director of Planning, Jeff Perlman, and our Senior Manager for Planning and Analytic Tools, Rick Cipoletti. I don't know that there's any other.
And Gabrielle Passell just joined.
And Gabrielle Passell, who's one of our GIS specialists.
Great. Thank you, David. And do we have anyone from Lehigh Valley? The one I didn't see as I went through.
Yes, Matt. I am Subham Korer, a Senior Data and Analytics Planner, Lehigh Valley Planning Commission.
Thank you, Subham. Appreciate you being here. Is there any one that I missed, any regions that we missed? I think I got everybody.
Matt, Orange County.
Oh, Orange County, sorry. Yep, I see it there. Sorry, Stacey, I didn't see you join.
No, that's fine. I'm Stacy Butler. I'm Deputy Commissioner of Planning for Orange County, representing Orange County Transportation Council, and Alan Sorensen, who is the Commissioner of Planning and the MPO Director, will probably be joining us a bit later.
Great. Then we'll keep an eye out for him. Thank you, Stacy. And I believe that now wraps up all of the various organizations that make up our map forum here. As for anyone that doesn't know, anyone that's on the YouTube watching this is a voluntary group of transportation planning professionals that, as you heard, span 3 different states and multiple different regions within each state in order for four states in order to have a collaborative understanding of transportation issues and transportation projects and initiatives that are happening on a multi-state basis. So we appreciate everyone taking the time to continue to participate in the map forum and to be here today for our spring meeting. So the next item on our agenda is item number 2, the keynote presentation. So presenting today will be Commissioner Garrett Ucalito from the Connecticut Department of Transportation. Garrett also, along with being the Connecticut DOT Commissioner, he's also the current president of AASHTO, who recently had one of their meetings in Washington, D.C. So we asked Garrett if he could come speak to some of the initiatives that AASHTO is looking to move forward with, as well as kind of an overview on some of the federal funding that I know we're all very interested in and how that's moving along in DC, given the last few months of uncertainty when it comes to funding. So Garrett, if you're able to share your screen, which I think you should be able to, go ahead and whenever you're ready.
There we go. Okay. So you should be seeing it.
We got it.
Thank you, Matt, for inviting me. So again, Garrett Ucalito here at ConnDOT. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all about about what AASHTO is doing and my time as president of AASHTO. So as part of being the AASHTO president, I think like with most trade organizations, the leader gets to select like an emphasis area. So my emphasis, and we get to focus on that for the 12 months. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why I chose safety as the emphasis area for the next 12 months, and then also talk about federal issues that are also of key interest to us at AASHTO over the next 16 months or so. For those that don't know what AASHTO is, we are a 111-year-old association representing the state DOTs. So that's all 50 states plus the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, and cover all modes of transportation. We did start as road builders and owners, but we do more than that now. We have councils and committees covering all modes. And since our state DOTs are constantly evolving to meet the needs of the states and communities, AASHTO has been evolving to meet that focus on mobility and safety for all users of the system. So our association's vision from the current strategic plan is to provide what the strategic plan says is improve quality of life through leadership in transportation. And it's acknowledging that transportation is not it's a means to an end, not the end product itself. And so our vision really focuses on improving everyone's lives, just like, NICE-DOT and New Jersey DOT do, providing the transportation people need to get people where they need to go, deliver the products and services they need, and provide transportation in emergencies. Most people don't think about infrastructure until something goes wrong, and then they start paying attention to infrastructure. So AASHTO's role is to support all the state DOTs any way we can. The big issue for all of us at state DOTs, though, is the safety crisis. And it's really not just a statistic. It represents the tens of thousands of lives lost and families devastated every single year. So when I attend our AASHTO meetings, every person at the table will say that safety is our top priority, and we need to make it central to every action we take. 2023, which is the most recent finalized numbers in FARS, has nearly 41,000 lives lost across the country from traffic crashes. And so that is, the screen, what you see on your screen there about how it can fill a professional baseball stadium should drive home just how large a number that is. In Connecticut, from 2020 to 2024, we had around 300 or more fatalities on our roadways each year. During that 5-year period, we had 298 pedestrians die, 327 motorcyclists died, and there were over 1,300 serious injuries each of those years, at least. We talk a lot about in the transportation community, we try to make comparisons, and we saw what happened at the beginning of this year with the plane crash in Washington, D.C., and the loss of lives there, and the national crisis that emerged over our air traffic control system. And so if we don't accept loss of life in the air transportation space, well, we need to reflect and talk to our colleagues across state governments. Why do we accept it on our roadways? We need to really demand the same standard of safety for our roads as we do for our skies. And we need to work together to drive the numbers down and save lives. So as I mentioned, we get to choose an emphasis area when you take over as president. The last time Commissioner of CONDOT was president of AASHTO was 1920. So, I updated our emphasis area a little bit for this time around. So I decided to focus on centering safety. So instead of just talking about it being our top priority, which it is in every state DOT, how can we make it the center of everything we do as well? And I broke it down into 3 different buckets. So safer communities, safer users, and safer workers. And so centering safety on communities means understanding your community values, engaging with residents. I tell the anecdote about my friend from Wyoming, where I grew up in Torrington, Connecticut. Torrington, Wyoming is a very different place. And I can't just assume that the appropriate roadway treatments for Torrington, Connecticut are exactly the same as Torrington, Wyoming. Each community is going to be different, and we can't assume that we know what the appropriate treatment is for our roadways just by looking at Google Earth. We need to actually get out there and talk to the residents, figure out what they want to see in their community to improve safety and improve their transportation system. The more local you get in government, the more you are in touch with what's happening in that community. And they're the ones who live there every day. They're the ones most impacted by the decisions we make at the state DOT level. So we need to really work with the community to determine what safety improvements can work in each specific situation in each specific community. And we need to do a better job talking about how, the impacts of those countermeasures that we're using. So instead of doing a project and going away and never coming back and never revisiting that project, we need to be tracking how that changed the community, how it improved safety in the community, so we can actually point to things and talk about the benefits of those investments we made. Safer road users. This is aimed more at the behavioral side of mobility, because on the engineering side of the house, on the infrastructure side of the house, the nation continues to make significant strides in investing in safer infrastructure, whether it's on limited access highways or on local roads. We are making safer roadways every single day. Unfortunately, the behaviors behind the wheel are eroding any of the safety investments we're making on the infrastructure side. So it is becoming less safe on our roadways because of the behavior that is behind the wheel. So that's something we need to really focus on, and we can't do that ourselves at the state DOT level. We need partners in law enforcement and at the federal level to continue to work with us on this, and also in the education community and the healthcare community. So one thing we need to do is how do we help get people to make the right choice or prohibit them from making the wrong choice? So there's a few different ways we can continue to focus on this. We need to focus on the roadway treatments that are going to force people to slow down and make different decisions. So that is, using infrastructure to drive down speeds or to use technology to force a reduction in the behaviors. So one of those is displayed on that screen there. That is a vehicle we have here at CONDOT. It's part of a federal research project where we have passive alcohol detection systems installed in the vehicle. It's constantly monitoring the air cabin quality or air cabin components and determining the blood alcohol concentration of the driver. And it is called the DAD system, Driver Alcohol Detection System for Safety. It's a federal research project through NHTSA. And we are up to 8 vehicles now in the CONDOT fleet, including my state vehicle, that have this installed in them. And it's constantly sending data back to the Driven to Protect initiative, which is the lead researcher on this, to figure out how we can make sure that we can deploy this to all vehicles in the future. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act actually included a provision mandating NHTSA pass a rulemaking that will mandate this in all future vehicles. They haven't done that yet, but it's out there. Clearly, the intent is to get there. And this could end drunk driving in our lifetimes, knowing that it's going to take a long time to cycle through the vehicle fleet model years, but eventually we can get there where this can stop drunk driving on our roadways in this country. But you can also use, like I mentioned, technology to help drive down speeds. We need to look at the data to help identify what the actual problems are. There's a huge black hole right now in our data as to how much drug driving is occurring, because oftentimes drug driving is also a part of drunk driving. And when law enforcement will test someone after they fail a standard field sobriety test, they will not pursue a blood test for drugs if they fail the alcohol portion of the the BAC test. So we have a huge gap there in what drugs are actually being used before people get on the roadways. And safer workers, this one really hits home at every state DOT. We've all lost employees due to crashes. ConnDOT lost an employee last year. It's something my hope is I never have to go through again in my entire life, because it shook us to our core. It's something that drives every state DOT every single day to try and do better and make the roadway safe for everyone. But we have to emphasize the need to communicate the human impact of those work zone crashes and incidents on individuals. So what can we do to give our employees the best equipment they can use out on the roadways? So we are investing in better crash trucks that have speed feedback indicators on them. We're testing new technology, such as AI detection of work zone intrusions. We are testing new UV lights that will light up our reflective materials at nighttime, lighted vests, lighted helmets, but still we need to focus on the driver behavior. We need to make sure that people remember to slow down, move over is not just, it's more than just a slogan. For us at ConnDOT and for every other state DOT, we continue to have losses every single year. And so you just have a few of those on the screen here. Just last week, beginning of this week, actually, I think we lost a highway maintenance supervisor who also served as a volunteer fire chief in Pittstown, New York. He lost his life after being struck by a motorist. So the entire New York State DOT community, I know, is going through an incredibly difficult time. And we feel that because we lost our colleague, Andrew DiDomenico, last year at 9:17 in the morning when an impaired driver struck him as he was picking litter in advance of a mowing operation. So it's an extremely dangerous job working for state DOT. And we need to do our part to make sure people recognize how dangerous that is. The other part of my focus area is on reauthorization of the surface transportation bill. And so part of that is how do we tell the story about what the investments have been doing for our state DOTs? And we need to focus on the fact that the money that we've received from the federal government to invest in infrastructure is making significant changes to our roadways, to our bus systems, to our rail systems, to our airports, and to our ports. So on your screen there, you see funding levels from IIJA. So since 2001, though, it's important to recognize that Congress has been spending more than the revenues collected by the Highway Trust Fund, which is the intent. It used to be the main vehicle to fund our surface transportation system here in this country. Beginning in 2008, Congress began to shift money from the general fund into the Highway Trust Fund. It's similar to what those of us in Connecticut have seen our state do, where we have not increased revenues for transportation. So we've taken other revenues, such as sales tax and others, and shifted them from the general fund into the special transportation fund here in Connecticut. So a total of $275 billion has been transferred from the federal general fund to the Federal Highway Trust Fund since 2008. And in IIJA, the most recent reauthorization, just in that bill alone, there was a $118 billion transfer to support the spending levels that the Highway Trust Fund had. And then they had the advanced appropriations of an additional $184 billion from the general fund. So we are appreciative of how much money has been invested, but it's important to recognize that there needs to be a solution moving forward on how do you pay for transportation. Here, this shows, what passage of IIJA and what we're actually getting for the money. So it illustrates the highway funding that was authorized each year under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. But then it shows what's the impact of the rising construction costs that we've seen due to inflationary pressures. So, people see a large dollar number attached to the infrastructure bill, but in reality, there is less buying power at the state and local level because of what inflation has done to the construction industry. And so it's important that everyone recognizes that. And I know you all do, but I like to tell the public about this too, because they think we're just flush in cash. So what are we going to do moving forward at AASHTO? We are really focused on, we want a 5-year bill. We want that 5-year bill to use the previous funding levels in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act as the base. And we want to grow from there. So to do that, we're going to need additional revenues or general fund transfers. So on the screen there, you see those numbers. So to pay for that next reauthorization, there's a few different things AASHTO has been talking about for several years. We really would like to see a long-term sustainable transportation investment where there's a combination of user-based fees, user-based revenues, and general fund support. We could plus up the Highway Trust Fund by strengthening the user fees that already come into it. Fuel taxes, which it's clear Congress does not want to touch, taxes on trucks, tires, etc. We could look at new revenue sources. So the one big beautiful bill, it's still whatever it's, I guess the acronym is OBBBA, actually does have a new revenue stream in that bill in the Budget Reconciliation Act. It's the first new revenue stream for the Highway Trust Fund in decades, which is a fee on electric vehicles and hybrids that would have to be collected by the states and then remitted back to the federal government. AASHTO was very supportive of that concept of fees on electric vehicles because they are using the roadways as much, if not having more wear and tear on the roadways than a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle, but not contributing to the federal Highway Trust Fund. So we are pretty pleased that something was included in the bill on that. On the general fund side, yes, we could continue those general fund transfers to the Highway Trust Fund. We could continue to provide annual appropriations to advance appropriations as well. But reality is, at some point, we as a nation have to have this conversation about how are we going to pay for transportation. So here is our vision for reauthorization. We took a vote as a board 2 months ago, last month in Hartford at our spring meeting. But we want federal funding stability. We want formula-based federal funding paired with state contributions. We want current funding levels plus inflation. And we want to ensure that there's a user pay principle that continues to be the root of our federal transportation system. Policy principles here, you're reiterating that the first one there, but the second one is really focused on what can we do? We've seen what's been happening at the federal level in terms of federal workforce. So what can we do to improve project delivery and program administration to improve flexibility for state and local governments, to simplify environmental regulations and reduce the burdens of the programs that the feds give us to administer? And how do we create a safer and more resilient and efficient future by allowing DOTs to harness innovation and technology to help deliver their programs and make a safer system? So as the leader of ASHTO, I get the opportunity to engage with USDOT. In February, we had Secretary Duffy come speak to our Washington briefing, and I was able to meet with him in advance of that. It was really great conversation on the future of our infrastructure system, and we talked about our commitment to really collaborate at the federal and state levels to ensure that we can, cut red tape. That's one of his big focus areas, and work together to address the infrastructure needs. They love talking about big, beautiful things. So he talked about the desire to build big, beautiful roads and bridges, and I reminded him also railroads. It was a good conversation. But the surface transportation system does not exist without federal support, and we reminded him of that. So we're pretty optimistic. We had Deputy Secretary Stephen Bradbury come to Hartford to speak at our spring meeting, he reiterated a lot of the same talking points and the desire to work to find improvements to reduce regulatory burdens on all levels of government who are trying to administer the transportation system. So here at ConnDOT, I just want to wrap up by highlighting a few things going on at ConnDOT. So our capital program is the largest ever in our history. We have more than 800 total projects either in planning or currently underway. And as you can see on the screen there, we're improving local projects all over the state, not just on state roadways, also local roads, sidewalks, highways, bridges, rail infrastructure. We're also looking ahead with a really strong focus on the future. We're advancing more than a half dozen planning and environmental linkage documents or PEL studies. So these are efforts to really do a comprehensive look of how are we going to reshape the infrastructure in Hartford. In Waterbury, we have the huge new project that will be moving forward to replace the Mixmaster, looking at I-95 in Stamford, I-84 in Danbury, and I-95 in Eastern Connecticut from Branford to the Rhode Island border. And I know in a little bit you'll hear more about those initiatives from my colleagues Neil Patel and Kim Lasay. So I won't continue to talk about those. We are focused on how do we accelerate projects here in Connecticut. So I was really excited to be able to announce when we had all the 50 state DOTs here, the first of its kind in the nation, a programmatic agreement to streamline federal reviews under Section 106, so historic preservation. Really, Kim Lasay, Kevin Cariffa, and our team here at ConnDOT were the ones driving that, working with the Federal Highway Administration, Federal Railroad Administration, Federal Transit Administration, and the Advisory Commission on Historic Preservation. It's the first multimodal programmatic agreement for Section 106. So USDOT was really excited about that. And we were excited to get it inked and signed. So it can have, a 6-month benefit on each project that has to go through that, but at least 6 weeks of benefit. So, and another area that we're really focused on right now is looking at all the land that we have in our portfolio. We have significant transportation assets that are providing mobility to our state. What you see on the screen there is New Haven Union Station. We have 2 surface parking lots on either side of that. We are really going to aim to look at all of our rail stations and bus rapid transit stations and other land that is under ConnDOT portfolio on how we can better utilize that to do 2 things. One, invest in housing in our state, which is a critical issue, as we all know, but also how can we generate revenues to support our transportation system, our bus and rail system. Costs continue to increase to operate the bus and the rail system in Connecticut. The full burden of that is on the state appropriation, and costs are way outpacing revenues in our transportation fund. So we will hit a point at which we need to make tough choices. So anything we can do now to try and generate additional revenues to support those public transportation systems is going to be critical. So we hired our first TOD officer, Juliet Brudelski. She is working to ink some of those letters of intent and new agreements to get some projects moving. We're investing in stations across the state. And we are looking beyond just New Haven and Stanford, but where else we can do. We also did receive a federal grant for TOD planning last year, so pretty excited about that. So some of you may hear from Juliet and Deputy Commissioner Alicia King on that federal grant, because we'll be working with our regional planning agencies as well as local governments on that initiative. And so with that, really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I know there's a lot of work ahead for all of us who work in transportation. I really am confident that here in Connecticut, we're on the path to a safer, more accessible, and more sustainable transportation system. Thanks in part to everyone who works at all of our MPOs and everyone who works at the CONDOT and our neighboring states. So, really excited to work alongside with all of you. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I probably went right up to the time, but thank you.
Gary, you did a great job on your timing. 10:34, perfect. We do have a time maybe for one question or two if someone wants to raise your hand.
Matt, I have one quick question for the commissioner. And again, I just want to thank him for coming to our meeting and providing a lot of useful information. And just, again, thank him for all the great work he's been doing, because, Connecticut is really moving forward with a lot of projects. And I think that's, a testament to his leadership. The one question I do have that might be of interest to the group is, a lot of the MPOs in the MAP forum have received discretionary grant awards from 23 or 24. Any advice, and a lot of those are on hold or being relooked at. Any advice on how we might be able to work with USDOT to advance those projects?
No, it's a great question. So we have been, since January 21st, 22nd, we have been in overdrive working with USDOT, just trying to lock down as many grants as possible, obligate the funding. They are very keen to obligate as many funds as possible. They view it as they had over 3,200 grants sitting on their desk that were awarded but not obligated, and they were shocked when they came in and saw that. And so I've talked to them about that. And so they are eager to do that. They want everything to be ready. So I would say, just continue to work closely with them. If there are priority ones that have a deadline and like clock ticking on when you really need to move it because you're going to miss a season, they want to know that. And it can be escalated up through the chain to the secretary's office or to the administrator's office. They're finally filling all the senior positions there. They have the nominees for Federal Highway Administrator, Federal Transit Administrator, Federal Rail Administrator, pending a vote anytime soon. But the deputies are in place, and they are definitely eager to get things locked down. You will have to make changes to the grant agreements if there were any pending draft grant agreements. We've done that. We've gone back and forth. We've changed words, made a lot of more attestations as to that we comply with everything. It escalated up. If you're not hearing back from your points of contact, I would just escalate up to the Government Affairs Office, and they will be eager to get things inked and moving.
Okay, thank you, because we are ready to move, and we are, I think, under a time deadline. So we've been on a sort of wait and see, because we didn't want to push too much. We wanted to see how things would sort of shake out. But like I said, I think we need to sort of, like you said, move it up the chain. So thank you.
Definitely move it up the chain. We've had every week my team here, we revisit our list of every grant, and every week we're getting more and more signed off and obligated. And if not obligated, at least they're signing off on pre-award authority so we can start spending the money. But things are definitely moving, but you have to be the squeaky wheel with them.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We have maybe time for one more. I don't know if anyone else has one more for Commissioner Icolito. All right, seeing none. Garrett, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to be our keynote presenter today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to item number 3 on the agenda. This is the different work programs and working groups that the MAP Forum has. So we're going to start with the 2025 work program update by Mark Nielsen, Naugatuck Valley.
Okay, let me see if I can
Do you have it, Mark? If not, I can pull it
Yeah,
up.
yeah, it's slow. Trying to see where. Let's see if this works. No, why don't you share it, Matt? It might be easier. It's not working real quick for me. As Matt is starting that presentation, I think everybody is aware of the. Just go to the first slide. Thank you. Everybody is aware that the MAP Forum is, a voluntary organization, and what we can accomplish is due to the efforts of each of the partner organizations. We call this a work program, but it's not very prescriptive. It's something that we're trying to work on together as a group, and when we sort of have the resources. And before I get into the more of an update, I just want to mention that, as everybody knows, Jerry Bogas has retired from his position at NIMTIC, and Jerry was an incredible resource and advocate for the MAP Forum. And through his leadership and efforts and hard work, the group has really evolved over time, from its very beginning stages many years ago to where it is today. I think the biggest deliverable or accomplishment has been just the willingness of all our members to work together. And if we have issues or problems, that we know who to call in another agency, and we're very familiar with one another. So I think that's been the most effective result of the group, and we're going to be trying to continue that work going forward. With Jerry's retirement, Dave Barron at NJTPA has agreed to sort of take on the role of the lead for the MAP Forum, being responsible for putting together agendas and doing the distribution of all our materials going forward. And NVCOG has agreed to support Dave in that effort, so he's not going at alone. So it's going to take many agencies to sort of fill Jerry's shoes, but we're willing to give this a try. So NJTP is going to be the facing agency going forward, and NVCOG is going to be a support agency. And between the two of us, we'll continue the group. Go to the next one, Matt. So again, the key considerations again is keep going. We fill up the screen. Again, it's the key consideration is that we're just doing this voluntarily, but we are trying to work together and provide strategic guidance among everybody, and we're using the resources of our membership to accomplish things. Next, Matt. So again, our key products that we have been working on is sort of listed on this first slide here. NJTPA has created the MAP Forum Hub. They host it on their website. It's a place where all members can go to look at information that we're all working on, to share documents, to share experiences. It's a tremendous effort by NJTPA. They've done a lot of work on that. And I just encourage all members to take advantage.
Come and get me when it's time.
Take advantage of the data that's and the information that's on that hub. We're hoping to continue that hub and make it and improve it. Next, Matt. These are a couple of ideas that we had going forward. We want to sort of create a committee or a subcommittee of the MAP Forum to look at the analytic tools that everybody's using to see if there's a way we can sort of enhance our forecasting and data capabilities. And that's something that hasn't been started yet, but we're looking to sort of possibly create that kind of committee going forward. So we'll probably be reaching out for volunteers to sit on that committee and see what we can accomplish. Next. And, these are activities that are ongoing that we're going to continue, especially the Map Forum Freight Working Group. We have a multi-state resilience working group and the Metro Mobility Network project that is under the direction of NIMTIC. Multi-freight working group has been a very effective group. Freight is a big issue for all the 4 states involved in the Map Forum. And the Brian Height at Lehigh Valley Planning Commission is the lead on that working group. And he's going to be continuing to provide information and distribute reports throughout the group and hold working group meetings throughout the year. Megan Sloan at MetroCog and Manesh Shah at NIMTIC, are co-chairing the multi-state resilience working group. You'll hear a little bit more about that in the next. Megan's going to give a update on that working group. But again, that's sort of a post-Sandy outcome from the post-Sandy work, trying to look at resilience throughout the region. And then we're also looking at one of the sort of the key focus areas is this, boundary projects that really affect not just an individual state or region, but more than one state. So again, we're looking to form a committee that would look a little bit more in depth of these boundary projects and studies so that we can sort of, again, coordinate and work together. Next one, Matt. And these are just a couple of the multi-state issues that we have, we'll continue to work on. Regional waste mobility study, assessment of transit systems. Regional land use database is something that we're looking to sort of work on to, again, so we have a single source for a lot of land use data that all can sort of take advantage of. And then again, part of looking at the critical bottlenecks that are, affecting our region. Next, Matt. And I think that was it. Yep. So again, in conversations with Dave Barron and myself and Jerry before his retirement, we're thinking about revisiting the work plan going forward in the next couple months, just to see if everything continue to make sense, see if we're missing anything, and refine some of the work outcomes that we want to sort of accomplish. And with that, the only other thing I will mention is that we do have a MOU that all partner agencies have signed. I think it was last updated in 2018. So again, one of the things going forward in the next couple of months is we're going to revisit the MOU and send around a updated version of that. I don't expect many changes, but we just so again, everybody can take a look at what we sort of signed on to and see if everything's still valid. So with that, Matt, again, thank you for a quick update.
Thanks, Mark. Moving on to item B under the work program activities is the multi-state freight working group. The agenda has Brian Height, but we're actually going to be joined by Dr. Subham Karel, who's going to give us an update on the multi-state working group for freight.
Yes, let me share my screen and please let me know if you can see it or not. Can you see my screen?
It's coming up now, maybe.
Yeah, it looks like, there you go.
There
All right. So we had, like our spring public meeting on the multi-state freight working group on May 16, 2025, and Brian and me were like co-chairing this group. The agenda had 3 presentations, and then that was followed by a Map Forum data portal meeting update that I gave, and then finally there was a Map Forum 5 minutes report. The first presentation on the agenda was Jerry Bogatz from the NIMTIC and Tyler Oates from Rutgers Center of Advanced Infrastructure and Transportation presentation on the regional waste movement study. They ran a couple of scenarios using like 2030 and 2050 data, and then like they modeled different scenarios like 10% increase and decrease in recycling rates for the waste and 20% increase in rail mode shares, and then they evaluated some outcomes for the study, which they found that like recycling rates, changes in recycling rates had the most significant impact on the total number of trips and overall mileage. We would expect that. But what he said that was that, like the shift to rail from trucks had a minimal effect on the number of trips, but total mileage reduced because the number of long distance hauls reduced. So, but like they identified several regional challenges that needs to be addressed, like a lack of coordinated perspective on modal waste movement, disconnect between planning tools and waste system dynamics, policy and regulatory barriers, both within and across state lines, and inconsistent definitions of waste. This concluded the first presentation. The second presentation was given by Stephen Chermonti from WSP, who shared an update on the Eastern Pennsylvania Freight Infrastructure Plan. His presentation highlighted the input gathered through stakeholder engagement and public surveys, and the key themes that they identified through this initiative were like need to reassess the status of regional warehouses, develop dedicated truck lanes or routes, impose restrictions on specific vehicle types. Requires GPS users in newer trucks, increasing enforcement of speed limits and implementing stronger zoning policies. They also included other policy recommendations like preserving farmland buffers, enhancing signage, and encouraging a shift from truck to rail freight. And then, because this was a finding that they got from the stakeholder engagement and public surveys, they tried to back this up with real data. And to do that, they included a series of, maps and charts that depicted land use growth, zoning overlays, annual average daily truck traffic, volume distribution, bridge condition ratings, and crash statistics, and several other things, which ended up, in a series of policy recommendations as the conclusion of the documents. And the next steps he outlined was formalizing the EPFA membership, launching a dedicated website and mapping tools, scheduling future meetings, and seeking for potential grant opportunities. The third presentation was again another Stephen Solanki from the Fleet Mobility Unit of New York City Department of Transportation. He provided an update on the NYC overnight truck parking study, started by giving a brief introduction of why overnight truck parking would be important and what are the factors that cause overnight truck parking, including federal mandated rest breaks, vehicle staging requirements, long-term storage needs, or some emergency situations like vehicle breakdowns or inclement weather. So the main goal of this study, according to them, was to support driver compliance with all of these requirements, reduce illegal parking in residential neighborhoods, and pilot new curbside management strategies that could be scaled citywide. So they were trying to, pilot test an app which is called Park NYC app, which was, which they had 45 parking spaces in industrial business zones, and each truck should pay $10 per 8-hour increments, which would be $30 per day for parking 24 hours. And they identified certain locations around New York, including Rava Avenue. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct or not. In South Bronx, which had 15 to 16 spaces. Flatlands Avenue in Brooklyn with 7 to 8 spaces. 56 Road in Queens with 21 to 22 spaces. And they are also, trying to identify newer locations where they would expand this pilot study. But, since the launch of the program, New York NYPD has summoned over 700 tickets, and the DOT is currently reviewing parking lot utilization through different technologies like time-lapse footage and transaction data. Again, looking forward, DOT plans to assess additional city-owned parcels for off-street parking, explore management options through a potential RFP, and advanced site screening and feasibility evaluations. Then this was, like the conclusion of the presentations at that meeting. I gave a brief update on the Map Forum data portal meeting, where we discussed the importance of incorporating economic, commodity, and land use data along with different system characteristics and conditions for truck movement. Network performance data such as travel time, reliability, and cost was also identified as a priority. Other areas for future consideration include, like modal distributions, because we had a lot of discussion about, like what kinds of modes will we use for freight movement, and what would be the trends over time, what would the impacts on performance, the growing role of alternative fuels and freight-related technologies, and the rise of automated freight movements, and the need to, like comprehensively include major freight generators from where like the freight movement would originate. And then at the end, we had a Map Forum members 5 minutes report where Chris Canary from New York City Economic Development Corporation shared that a new study on ports is being launched and was inviting collaboration from other Map Forum members. Brian Hyatt concluded with the courtesy of the floor and reminded everyone that the next Map Forum meeting would be in fall 2025. That's the update that I had from the last meeting.
Great. Thank you, Suba. Appreciate it. We'll move on to item number C for work program activities, the land use data. Gabrielle Fassel from NJTPA.
Hey, good afternoon. Hopefully everyone can hear me.
Yep, you're good. Thank
This
you.
will be very, very quick. Last March, I was asked to add a link to the data from the Regional Freight Land Use Study. The study collected and analyzed freight and industrial land use data from the multi-state region. This data is now available and has been available since last year to download, and the link to access the data can be found on the homepage of the Hub site.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you very much, Gabrielle. Appreciate it. And then we'll move on to item D, the Resilience Working Group. Megan Sloan, MetroCog.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'll be brief as well. We have a meeting scheduled for June 23rd. If anybody didn't receive that invitation, just reach out to me and I'll send it over to you. New York State DOT will be presenting on their resilience improvement plan. In December, we had a very good meeting on the Long Island economic flood risk study that LIRPC was nice enough to provide us with. And then going forward, I've been in touch with Connecticut DOT about presenting on their resilience improvement plan that's still in development. I hope to schedule something over the next few months. And I also invite New Jersey and Pennsylvania to reach out to their DOTs about their state resilience improvement plans. And then any ideas for members on other meeting topics would be great. I'm kind of at, I guess, a dead end, identifying topics of interest to members. So please, reach out to myself or my co-chair, Manesh Shah. And Manesh, did you have anything to add? Oh, he may have had to drop off. So I think he had to drop off after 1:30. That's it for me. You're on mute.
I was muted. Sorry. Thank you very much. Trying not to have background noise and get caught. Thank you, and thank you to the four of you for presenting on the work program activities. Mark, look forward to kind of expanding out the work program for 2025 and into the future. And great to see all the work that's being done, both at the larger Map Forum amongst all of us on the collaborative nature, but also when we dig down into these specific working groups. It's really nice to kind of get a little bit more detail, and I think it's very useful and helpful pieces for everyone to kind of collaborate on. So we will now move on to item number 4 on the agenda, which is 2 different presentations on regional issues. As the host for this MAP forum meeting, MetroCog did reach out to Connecticut DOT, and they were thankfully willing to present on a few of the different planning and environmental linkages studies that Connecticut DOT is administering. So joining us will be Neil Patel from Connecticut DOT's Major Highway Unit, and Kim Lassay, who is the Connecticut DOT Bureau Chief for Policy and Planning.
Afternoon.
Neil,
how you doing?
I can share if you want, or you can share. It's up to you.
I should be able to share.
Okay.
Let's see here. Well, let me know if that's working right now.
Not yet, but give it a second. There we go. There it is.
There it is. Okay. Yeah, we work in Teams a lot, so getting used to Zoom sometimes is
Sorry.
a little bit of time. But okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you again, and good afternoon. My name is Neil Patel. I'm a principal engineer in a major highways unit here at the Department of Transportation. And joining me today is Kim Lassay, our bureau chief from the Bureau of Policy and Planning. And we're going to talk to you today about the current Pell studies that the department is undertaking. And, I just want to give a little context for those that may not be familiar as much with our state in terms of where we are conducting these studies. We've got 2 along I-84, one in Danbury, one in Waterbury in the western part of the state, and then down in the southwest corner of the state in Fairfield County, we've got a few Pells on I-95, and then Kim's going to cover the I-95 East Pell going along the shoreline from Branford into Rhode Island. So what exactly is a planning and environment linkage study? It is a federal approved, FHWA approved process, represents a collaborative and integrated approach to transportation decision-making. It considers the environment, the community, economic goals early on in this transportation planning process so that you can utilize all that information, the analyses, the data, all the products in this planning analysis to inform the environmental review process. Again, the main goal here is to streamline NEPA and project development moving forward. Some of the benefits: that early engagement educates the public, the stakeholders, and helps to establish the goals and objectives, and early coordination with resource agencies also promotes environmental stewardship. Some of the outcomes that we look for from a Pell study: draft purpose and need for a range of alternatives that are going to be carried forward into NEPA. And in some cases, we have enough information to recommend a class of action. And the Pell allows us to perform a high-level assessment of impacts, potential permit needs, mitigation strategies, and most importantly, the study can provide an implementation plan or even allow an agency to prioritize projects as we move forward to the next phases. And here at the department, we really put an emphasis on identifying breakout projects, something that we can do and implement in a short time frame to make sure that the project area, the study area is receiving some of those benefits quicker. So I'm going to start with the Pell study in Waterbury that our colleagues here at NDCOG are very familiar with. They've been part of the process with us as we've navigated, and we have just recently wrapped up the Pell study. So this new mix Pell study involves the Route 8 I-84 interchange in Waterbury, and specifically the structures at the core of the interchange, which is known as the mix master, and you'll see in a second why. So I-84 is, as many of us know, regionally a very significant corridor between New York and Boston, very significant volume of traffic right through many of the cities along I-84 in Connecticut. The study area, it includes the road, the core of the interchange, the roadway approaches, but it also includes the local surrounding communities. So just a quick snapshot of the existing conditions here. Route 8, we're looking at the interchange from the south. Route 8 is here on the left-hand side. As you can see, Route 8 is a stacked structure, as is 84, that's running left to right, stacked structure. And the structures are reaching the end of their service life. We just did a recent rehabilitation project that's extending the service life about 15 to 20 years. And in addition to the structure deficiencies, and you can see there are some very tight geometric and operational deficiencies with the ramps. We kind of highlight the 4 levels because once you take into account the system movements and the ramps to the local roads, you're looking at 4 levels within this interchange. And the team had to, this gives a perspective of some of the constraints that the team had to take into account as they developed alternative. You have the cemetery, Riverside Cemetery, Naugatuck River, Metro North Railroad line, and obviously the city's initiatives with Jackson Street and development to the north. So what is the new mix? It is planning for that long-term future of the mix master. Again, the team analyzed several rehabilitation and replacement options that are, meeting the goals of modernizing the interchange, improving safety, functionality. Very important to the city is improving function of the local road network, a lot so that it meets the city's economic goals and the community's plans. And again, our goals are always to reduce congestion and improve air quality. This is a typical process that we've used to screen alternatives throughout our PEL studies. PELs give you the flexibility to do it a little bit differently. And so, again, screening at this is for the new mix. We screened at 3 levels, starting with a high level fatal flaw analysis, progressing into more of a qualitative level 2, and level 3 becomes more detailed and quantitative. And in the process, the screening results in PEL recommendations, in this case, a range of alternatives. And we have 2 that are moving forward into NEPA. This is the modern crossover interchange. Again, as you can see, both Route 8 and 84 are unstacked in these alternatives, allowing us to provide improved ramp spacing and geometry, eliminating left-hand ramps. And then we wanted to make sure that we're meeting, again, the city and community goals, and then part of that is incorporating urban design elements as much as possible. And in this case, you can see how Jackson Street is incorporating complete streets, enhancement elements into the fabric. And then you also have additional, you can't really see it here, but there's an additional river crossing that helps to really enforce the roadway network of the city. The second alternative that's moving forward, pretty much the same alternative in terms of the structure replacement and the unstacking and the geometric improvements. It's just that in this case, we're proposing to shift the Naugatuck River to the east to allow Route 8 to be unstacked on the western side, but this gives a little bit more opportunity for enhancement along the river. And I just want to highlight again, early, another benefit of the PEL study is identifying breakout projects, and there are quite a bit that we've identified and that are moving forward within this area. The small to mid-sized projects, most of them are in design. We had a couple that we were able to actually incorporate in the construction rehab project that just took place. But again, they range from intersection improvements to traffic calming. We're looking at on Grand Street, and then also some pedestrian and bike type enhancement projects. Real quick on the schedule. Like you said, we are wrapping up the PEL study, moving into the EIS phase with the 2 alternatives. The ultimate goal is to start construction in the 2030s. The next PEL study we're going to talk about is the Danbury PEL study. The limits of this PEL study start at the New York state line, about 9 miles to just east of exit 8. It also incorporates the Route 7 overlap. Route 7 in here is a pretty busy roadway that overlaps with 84 for about 3.5 miles. Again, many of the folks that have driven through here obviously know frequent congestion, long delays and queues within this area. Attributed to, you could just see by the layout here, some of the geometric deficiencies in the main line, but also because of the left-hand exits and some of the leading rooms that are present. The other thing that the team found here was the lack of the roadway connections in Danbury. So a lot of folks are jumping on 84 and getting off within the study area. So, you know, a lot of local traffic is using 84, so that adds to the congestion. So the purpose of the study is to develop solutions to reduce congestion and improve mobility. The team looked at a variety of concepts by segments, and you know, they ranged from highway capacity, operational improvements, geometric improvements, ramp modifications, and even looking at bus and rail transit options, and then a variety of TSMO, transportation systems management and operation strategies. And those concepts were put through a screening process, put together as alternatives, and we are going to be releasing those recommendations very shortly. We have a public meeting coming up in a few weeks here at the end of June, so stay tuned for the results on that. In the meantime, again, we did identify a promising breakout project that we are still evaluating. It involves a TSMO strategy, a dynamic lane use, also known as part-time shoulder use. So again, it's essentially utilizing the shoulder, and in this case, the inside shoulder, it's the median, utilizing the shoulder during congested peak periods to provide that extra capacity. Again, the benefit, no major widening is required, minimal construction impacts, and you can implement this within 3 to 4 years. So this is something that we are looking at to move forward as a breakout project, specifically for the segment where Route 7 and 84 overlap. Moving down to I-95. So all the Pell studies on I-95, especially west of New Haven, were initiated as a result of the strategic implementation plan in 2019, which kind of recommended some short, mid, and long-term improvements for congestion relief. This section of I-95 is one of the most heavily traveled roadways. I don't think we need to emphasize that anymore. But you know, given the fact that the 120,000 vehicles are you know, coming in through the city, in and out of the city each day, it's the second most populated city in the state. Obviously, a major employment center. Interchanges 7 and 8 are used to access downtown, and they carry high volumes throughout both peak periods and even throughout the middle of the day. And then add into that, you have the busiest rail station in the Stanford Transportation Center. So again, just emphasizing the congestion that is experienced down here by these travel times during the peak periods. Add in the constrained corridor that's out there with the geometric and operational deficiencies. I do want to point out Bridge 32, which carries I-95 over Metro North, is slated to be replaced. We just did, again, another recent rehab project that's extending it maybe about 10 to 15 years. So that's a major focal point as we come up with the alternatives and how that bridge gets replaced, and given the fact that it's over Metro North, it's at a skew angle. And so those are being considered as we move forward with alternatives. So the primary purpose is to improve mobility and address operational deficiencies along this stretch, improve the crossing, as I said, of I-95 over Metro North and Myrtle Ave. But in terms of the other goals, I want to point out the emphasis on improving mobility for all users, especially there's multiple crossings under 95. And so we want to try to make sure we address all users, connect communities, connect the Stanford STC to the Central Business District as much as we can, and improve those connections. Right next door to Stanford, obviously, is Greenwich, and so the I-95 Greenwich Pell study starts at the New York State line and continues for about 7 miles and butts up right against the Stanford Pell, which is on exit 7. This also includes the Route 1 corridor, and surrounding the roadway network within that corridor. One thing I want to point out with Greenwich is the outreach, right? Again, with the Pell study, you want to do that early engagement, and all the Pell studies have project advisory committees. And I just wanted to bring up this one because there's a good mix of groups that are involved. They're very active. Yeah, we have our neighborhood groups, but we have Historical Society, the Tree Conservancy, Motor Transport Association is on all of our Pels because we know how much important the freight mobility is along our interstates. But we also have groups that have been opposed to a lot of what we have done and really concerns about noise. So we want to bring them on early and make sure they understand the process and make sure we understand their concerns. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is the I-95 mobility study in Fairfield and Bridgeport, another larger corridor study, about 9 miles from exits 19 to exit 30. Again, including some parallel routes, US 1, Route 130. Again, not as congested as Lower Fairfield County, but still some areas of pretty recurring congestion. The same issue as we see throughout, it's kind of a recurring thing: geometric deficiencies, poor operations, closely spaced ramps, and a lot of multiple Metro North railroad stations just south of 95. So again, the connectivity and how that our alternatives and the proposed improvements work with that. We want to make sure we address mobility for everyone, including also the transit hub in Bridgeport. And I think, I have a schedule slide here, just to get a typical idea of some of these Pell studies. This is the Fairfield Bridgeport one. We just finished up phase 1, moving on into phase 2, where we'll develop the evaluation criteria, alternatives, go through that screening, all while we keep the PAC and the public meetings, consistent throughout this next phase. We're looking at a completion in 2026 for this one. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Jim.
Right, thank you, Neil. Neil, you're still driving. I'm assuming you can advance for me.
Yeah, just let me know.
Okay, thanks. All right, thank you, everyone. Taking a slight pivot over to the eastern part of Connecticut along our coastline. This Pell has a much different feel to it. You can see from here, just starting off, it's 59 miles long, going from exit 53 in Branford over to the Connecticut-Rhode Island state line. So again, a little bit of a different feel as far as how much area we're trying to cover here. As you can see, 45 interchanges, 2 major bridges, and 159 structures along the way. Go ahead, Neil. This corridor also has a very long history. We have been looking at this for quite a while, some feasibility studies, and similar to, as Neil mentioned, some previous studies on I-95 west of New Haven. There were some feasibility studies that were done back in 2018. A lot of these past studies have really been focusing on traffic and congestion. And so we decided to initiate a Pell to really take a larger look and look at what we have for existing conditions out there besides traffic issues, and to start to reach out to the public and begin some agency involvement. Go ahead. So at this point, we do have a draft purpose. So this will sound very familiar to a lot of our Pels. The purpose is to increase regional mobility and safety. And then we get into our needs that were identified. So this is also, I think this will take a couple clicks, to go through all of them. This is a common theme in a lot of the Pels. As we're seeing a lot of congestion related crashes. So of course, safety and operational issues go hand in hand. And then we have some geometric deficiencies, and those include, should all come up, really close interchange spacing, and then some substandard infrastructure. So we have some poor bridge conditions, insufficient XL decel ramp lengths, some areas of substandard shoulder width, and some substandard stopping sight distance areas. So in addition to the purpose and needs, we also have set some study goals. So in addition to those big purposes and needs, we are also looking to reach these goals as we look at this. So ensuring that we are addressing capacity, safety, mobility, technology, and also taking a broader look at improving connections with our bus or passenger rail facilities serving the same part of the region. So we started this one back in 2022. We did have a virtual public informational meeting back then. We have been doing a little bit of a pivot. The study when it first started was really only looking at mainline. And also the traffic data that we had was pre-COVID data. So obviously things have changed post-COVID. So right now we are in the midst of getting some updated traffic data for that whole entire corridor, and have also broken the corridor up into some segments where we have either, similar challenges and characteristics along that roadway. If you're familiar with that part of I-95, it has some very different feels to it as you're in different parts of that 53-mile stretch. So we are working out some more focused traffic simulations, and are still working on developing and screening concepts, and hope to be back out with some public engagement once we have some more to share. But I did include the link to our website here, and definitely encourage anyone to visit it. You can sign up for updates. And I don't think Neil had a chance to mention that, but if you Google any of these PELs, they all have their own standalone websites, and there's a lot of great information and interactive maps on all of them. Again, you can sign up for newsletters or give us any comments or feedback, and we would love to hear from you.
Wraps up our presentation on the PEL
Thank
studies.
you, Neil and Kim. We really appreciate that. We do have like maybe a minute or two if anyone had a question for either Neil or Kim. Feel free to just unmute. Okay. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Get off without any questions. Appreciate it. Thank you for taking your time to present today. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
So we will now move on to item B under our regional issues. We reached out to David Corus, who is Executive Director of the Connecticut Municipal Development Authority, CMDA. This is a new agency in Connecticut that David is the director of, and it's really as we talked a little about earlier in this meeting, kind of focusing on and something that Commissioner Leo talked about, focusing on TOD development in and around our transit hubs. So David, I appreciate you being here. I don't know if you have anything to screen to share or not. You should be able to share if you have it. Otherwise, I will just leave it to you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Matt. No, I'm just going to chat.
Sure.
Be brief and informal. It's nice to see so many Connecticut colleagues, and nice to have the opportunity to interact with our colleagues on the other side of the border and the river. Good to see you all. So I'm David Corus. As Matt said, I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Municipal Development Authority, which is a new quasi-public authority. It was established by state statute in 2019, but it didn't get stood up. The board wasn't populated, and we weren't funded until the summer of 2024. So we've only been in operations for about 10 months. And as you all know, with bureaucracy, most of 2024 was getting things up and running, getting policies and procedures and procurement underway. But we've now been able to move into the content and our purpose. And our statutory purpose is to help municipalities, large and small, develop around their train stations and in their downtowns, with a focus on housing, but a broad mandate around economic and transit-oriented development. And I think what's interesting about the program is the way it's funded, the way we're empowered, and the way in which our relationship with the municipalities operates. So the carrot in many ways is our state funding allocations. We have a $90 million bond authorization, which can be used for technical assistance, transit-oriented development, housing, building demolition or rehabilitation, or anything that could be considered development or redevelopment. So it's a pretty broad entitlement that we can mobilize in our partner communities, either in the form of infrastructure grants to municipalities or local development authorities, or low interest gap financing directly to development projects, because we all know everything is having a pretty hard time penciling these days with interest rates and insurance costs and everything that goes into the development process. To get access to that funding, though, municipalities have to volunteer and they have to raise their hand. And I think this is where we're a little bit different. I mean, I think there's some similarities to the NJ Transit Village program, but there's definitely some distinctions with, for example, what's happening with MBTA and the mandates there. So we're a voluntary opt-in program. And the way it works is municipalities raise their hand, and they have to do so by passing a resolution at their local legislative body that says that they want to join us. And so it's it's a low bar in that there's no obligation at that point. You're not really committing to anything, but it's a fairly high bar in that there's a public hearing. It's vetted by the chief elected official and the local legislative leadership, and so it's a very public action. And so there's a lot of conversation there about kind of where this could go and what this could mean. So communities have to opt in, and that's really first and foremost to show enough local interest so that we know we're allocating our resources to places where there's a potential for a return of that investment. We could potentially work with almost every community in the state, anyone that has a rail station, a BRT station, or a downtown. And so it's probably about 100 of the 169 municipalities. And so by opting in through this resolution, it gives us a strong indication that these are folks that are serious, and we could spend some time and energy with them. Once they opt in, the only real, it's not so much a stick. A colleague of a friend of mine, folks may know, he's a consultant from Boston, UTL, Tim Love. I thought he came up with something really interesting when we were on a panel together a couple months ago. He said, "Yeah, you're not a stick, but it is kind of a frozen carrot, right? It's a carrot that's a little hard enough that you can kind of whack people with it a little bit to a degree." And what we mean by that is, we take a look at zoning. We take a look at municipal zoning limited to the area within a half a mile of the rail station or BRT station or within the downtown. And our statutory obligation is to certify whether or not their zoning in that area will likely substantially increase the number of dwelling units. And that's admittedly a bit subjective. And in my conversations with municipalities, I typically tell them to forget about the word substantial, right? That's the kind of thing that might usually kind of frighten them a little bit. But if they're allowing multifamily housing around their station relative to their existing housing stock, it's going to be substantial. I like to focus in on the word likely, right? Is this zoning that a developer will likely build in? Is it something that's attractive enough? Does it give them the return? Does it provide enough certainty? We don't want places that are going to use a discretionary process to kind of drag out and maybe ultimately decline. It doesn't necessarily have to be purely as of right, but we want some pretty high confidence that the zoning is going to result in the kind of development that it purports to enable. And so when we look at a municipality zoning, some of them we can certify as is, others we have recommendations. But if we make a recommendation, it's purely within the local zoning commission or whatever the local bodies is purview as to whether or not they want to make the change. If they don't make the change, they don't get to move to the next step. But it remains local control. And that's, I think, very important. It creates a really good opening of the door for me in working with these municipalities, knowing that they always have an out and they don't have to do anything that we tell them to. But, we're pretty confident that working with them and helping them understand the ways in which multifamily housing and mixed income housing and mixed use development, in their downtown around their station area is going to help them meet their goals and objectives. We're confident that we'll get there with most of them. Once the zoning is certified, then we enter into an MOU with the chief elected official that establishes the parameters of the development district. And that's most importantly the line on the map that again can be within a half a mile of rail or BRT or within a downtown and must contain the zone or zones that we've certified. So it's whatever subset of that geography has zoning that we've certified. And it can include any number of other things. It might include a cost share on our infrastructure investment. It could be some commitments for local policy that'll support the development, like tax fixing. But most importantly, it's the line on the map. And then once the line is on the map and the development district is designated through that MOU, then projects can apply to us for funding, whether it's directly from the municipality or from a development authority for infrastructure grants, or directly from a developer for gap financing. We've got $90 million. I can't remember if I said that, or I think I said that. We've got a $90 million allocation spread out over the course of the next 2 fiscal years. So it's a good amount of money, but as you all know, it's only going to go so far, particularly as multiple municipalities start to sign up. And so we're also focused on other ways that we could add value. And the big two are marketing and sort of developer matchmaking. A lot of the communities that we're talking to, they've got zoning, they want to do the right thing, but they haven't kind of met the right developer who understands communities like theirs or has done precedent projects that they can visualize. So helping to do some of that matchmaking. And then I think the big thing, and this will sound very familiar, certainly to colleagues in New York, we don't have anything like Seeker. We don't have generic EIS. We don't do anything like that in Connecticut, but I think we should. And so we're going to work really hard to try and create some sort of a state level permitting process that enables these districts to be permitted, at their build out, so that individual incremental developments that are working within the zoning envelope don't have to go through all of the subsequent state permitting steps. So we want to be able to say these development districts that cover our station areas and our downtowns not only have the zoning in place, but have a fast track to state permitting, so that there's a pretty quick timeline from concept to implementation. And so, as I said, 2024 was really about startup. 2025 has been about pitching communities and kind of municipal engagement. The earliest a municipality could have opted in was February. And so over the last several months, we so far have 16 municipalities that have passed the initial resolution, and they're all different sizes, all different shapes, every different corner of the community. There's another dozen or so that are in the process of doing so, and then another dozen plus after that are in discussion. So I'm pretty confident that we'll be, at or approaching 30 municipalities by the end of this year, and ultimately in the 40 to 50 range. So I've been very encouraged by the take up, and I can say with certainty, we talk to these chief elected officials. Most of them know what needs to be done in their community. They know they need to take more advantage of their property around their rail station or in their downtown. They know that there's a need for multifamily housing and mixed income housing and mixed use development and placemaking and enhanced public realm and walkability, but they don't always know how to get there. And so having a voluntary flexible toolkit from the state that has gubernatorial commitment and resources behind it is something that is really, really appealing to them. And our hope is that we're going to get to our first MOUs later this summer, approve our first projects later this year, and be closing on our first financing early 2026. And so we've, I think we're off to a good start. We are still building up our organizational capacity. I'm literally the only employee still, but just got the state budget passed a couple days ago, and I'll be able to hire a couple people starting in July. And so we're on a good trajectory, and certainly are looking to New York and New Jersey and Massachusetts to kind of build off of some of your precedents, and hopefully we can ultimately have some lessons learned that can be replicable throughout the region as well.
Thank you very much, David. Appreciate you going through the work you're doing, as you said, with a organization that was enabled in 2019, but really didn't get off the ground until last year. And you've done a lot since the first time you and I sat down and talked about it, I think last early fall through now. A lot of work's been done. It's great to see that. And as you said, the new state budget has some more commitments for your authority, which is great to see that continuing. We do have some times for questions. If anyone has any questions for David, I do have one that if no one else asks, I might bring one up, but I wanted to open up to the group first.
Matt, I have a quick question. Hi, David. Long time. Haven't talked. Glad to see you in the state and working still. So looking good.
Cheers. Thanks.
No, quick question. I mean, we've looked at TOD options and opportunities along the Waterbury branch line, pretty closely. And I've always found that the real critical element is the transit part. If you don't have the good transit service, you can do whatever you want on the housing side or on the development side, but you may not be successful because you don't have that T. I know you talked about, opportunities to, to help the towns get, the development off the ground, walkability, placemaking, all those other things. Are you working with DOT on how to enhance the transit services to really, meet the demand that might come about from this kind of development?
Yeah. Great question, Mark, and good to see you too. I think, so as I know my Connecticut colleagues know, my board is, I'm governed by a board that includes 7 commissioners, including the commissioner at DOT and the secretary of OPM. And so the folks who would be necessary for those kinds of decisions are absolutely at the table. What I've told communities is, listen, I don't control DOT, I don't control level of service. There's obviously a lot that goes into those decision making around, ridership projections and a whole slew of determinants. But I think it sends a very important signal to those decision makers when there's a critical mass of communities along a corridor that are making the decisions to support growth. And so, for example, on the Waterbury branch, we have 4 of the 6 stations enrolled, and I think we'll get the other 2 soon. On Shoreline East, we've got 1 of the communities enrolled, and I think we'll get 4 out of the other 5 over the coming few months. And I've told them, I can't make any guarantees, and it's certainly outside of my decision, but I look forward to standing alongside them and helping DOT understand the cumulative commitment to growth and development that would underpin some ridership growth that could justify future service enhancements. And so that's a long way of saying, out of my control, conversations are certainly, would be happening. But I think the best way to do that is through this collective approach to TOD, because we're not going to get more service if it's just one station on the line or, one
correct.
or 2.
Yeah. And that's always been the sort of the issue. It's like, what do you do first? Do you do the transit service enhancements, or we need to wait to see what kind of demand there's going to be? So
yeah, I think we're at an interesting moment in time where there is so much housing demand, and at least some of these communities are making such changes that the demand in some of these places that might have been dependent on the rail service previously is somewhat decoupled from that now, and so could move a little bit ahead of the service and then can become a justification for the subsequent enhancement.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you, Mark. Jeff Perlman.
Yeah. Thanks. Hey, David. So just I guess a thought I had as you were talking and mentioning about the allocation you have from the state. How are you able to leverage, or are you able to leverage additional funding sources? Like in New Jersey, there's some municipalities have urban enterprise zones, some are in opportunity zones. In New Jersey, there's a DCA program for neighborhood preservation, and these are all, some of these are in transit villages, some are not. But to the extent that some of these areas are in, like, how are you able to?
Yeah.
Are you able to put together? If you can't leverage it, are you able to put together plans that coordinate with each other so that you're maximizing the existing funds that are available?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. Yeah. So one of my first tasks in each of these municipalities is kind of drawing that map of overlays that identifies the various players and the various funding sources that they have unique eligibility or particular eligibility to. And then, what I've told municipalities is 2 things. One, there's nothing that we do that can hold other state agencies to do certain things. But communities ask me all the time, for example, could we fund remediation? I said, yeah, we could theoretically fund remediation, but first I'm going to go along with you to the Department of Economic and Community Development and help make the case that their brownfield money is better spent here because it's part of this bigger district strategy. And then there is some stuff in our statute around a coordinating role I don't talk about it often because we are so far away from having the capacity to be able to do so, but it is designed so that over time we could ultimately be an orchestrator of various state investments in a single place to make sure that we're kind of getting the most out of our various programs.
Cool.
Great. Thank you, David. Any other
So-
questions? Oh,
Yeah, I
Rob,
have
go
a
ahead, please.
question. Yeah, thank you. Hi, David. The as far as the what you can provide municipalities, what kind of form is it in? Is it in a grant form? Is it in a does it go directly to the municipalities? Does it go to the developer? And you mentioned infrastructure. It can fund infrastructure
Yeah.
around a potential development?
Yep. Yeah, so it's all the above. You know, we can do grants or loans. We suspect that most of our municipal support would be in the form of grant, and most of our direct developer support would be in the form of loans. If it's a grant to a municipality, it can support, you know, our statutory enabling says we can fund transit-oriented development, housing, building demolition or rehabilitation, or development or redevelopment. And so it's very broad. You know, I've always told communities if there's other potential funding sources, I'm going to try and help them get those first before our dollars go in for things like sewer expansion or road reconfiguration. But we can definitely do all that as long as it has a direct nexus between unlocking the potential of a site or sites.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Rob. Any other questions for David? Okay, seeing none. David, thank you very much for taking the time. I know you were just speaking just before this, so I appreciate you fitting us into your very busy schedule. But
Yeah, no
I
worries.
think it was a very helpful and worthwhile discussion. So thank you.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for the invite, and thanks for the opportunity to chat with you all, and certainly looking forward to future opportunities to interact with our colleagues in New York and New Jersey.
Thanks, David.
Cheers.
Okay, we will move on to item number 5, which is the public participation. We did ask for anyone from the public that wished to speak on this, if they needed to register ahead of time. I did only receive one registration for someone from the public to speak. It was from an Eric Richardson, who I do not see on. But Eric, if you were on and would like to unmute, please feel free to provide your public comment. Please note that we're trying to limit these to about 3 minutes. Going once, going twice. Okay, I do not think Eric's on. Just for everyone's awareness, we are live streaming this to our YouTube channel for MetroCog. We did have at the high point about 45 people watching the stream. And so there are other members, other folks not part of the Zoom here that have been taking in this map 4 meeting. Okay, so seeing no public comment, I will move on to item number 6, next meeting agenda items. So very quickly, our annual meetings typically occur November, December timeframe, and then late May and June timeframe. So our next full map 4 meeting will be in November or December. We will be reaching out to all the map 4 members to take a understanding who might want to be the host for that one, and then we'll look for based on who's hosting, coordinate with those folks to put together an agenda that satisfies the need of all of our members and participants as part of this. Mark, I saw you on mute. Do you have anything?
No, I was just going to say, typically the annual meeting is hosted by either, excuse me, NJTPA or NIMTIC. And if I remember correctly, NIMTIC did it last year. So I think, David, you're up for this year.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
That's the plan.
All right. Well, there we go. So NJTPA will be hosting our annual meeting. We will be coordinating probably over the next number of months on what that meeting looks like and items. But David, appreciate you stepping up to host that one.
Happy to do it.
Thank you very much.
Just ask that when we're reaching out to you for information and feedback on this stuff as we gear up to it, that you help us out.
We will do so. We promise, David.
Appreciate it.
Oh, no, we don't have Jerry anymore, so it's up
I
to you to
know.
pester everyone. But I do think, you know, to Mark's point that he made earlier, Jerry was a huge driver for this group. Got us all together, expanded it over the course of his leadership from a relatively small number of regions, and now we cover 4 states in a relatively large region. I know it's something that we discuss in our federal highway certification reviews, kind of the voluntary nature of what we do here on a multi-state basis. It's always viewed very favorably by federal highways, and I think, you know, I would just speak to, and I know he's not on the call, but we all had said our congratulations previously. But you know, the work that Jerry did to set us up, I really look forward to continuing to support this group going forward. I think we're in a really good place and have moved, you know, from just a kind of informal group that gets together and talk about some things to a very more formalized group of transportation planning professionals that are able to move multi-state initiatives and work on them collectively. So, you know, I'm as I have been very excited on the work that we're doing out of this map forum, and look to continue supporting it from our perspective in Connecticut. And David and the folks at NIMTIC and Lehigh Valley and Orange County appreciate all your continued support for this group.
Yep, we're always been very supportive and look forward to keeping it going.
Great.
And yeah, we will all miss Jerry. You know,
Yes, that's
the map forum and the other work that we do it. You know, we're non-voting members of NIMTIC's board, and just, you know, obviously a lot of projects that connect our 2 regions, and so there's been a lot of interaction with NIMTIC and particularly with Jerry over the years. And yeah, he's been a great resource and a real champion of this map forum. So he'll definitely be missed.
very much so. Thank you, David. All right. So without anything else on the agenda, I will move to item 7, which is adjourn no later than 3 p.m. And we have given you all back 16 minutes. So I hope you can take those 16 minutes and enjoy the nice weather we're having right now. It was cold last week, so it's nice to have some warm weather in June.
Absolutely.
But thank you, everyone. Really appreciate everyone taking the time to join us today.
Thanks, Matt. Great
Thank
job.
you.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Hosting. Yep. Take care.
You all.
Have a good weekend, all.
You too. Thanks.
All right.